That was The Association. Come on in. One of my all-time favorite groups forever. And I just became good friends with the drummer a couple of weeks ago, a fellow named Bruce Pictor, who has played with The Association for well over 30 years. He replaced the original drummer, Ted Blueshell. But Bruce and I have had some interesting chats on Facebook, and actually Bruce used to play with Gary Puckett, and has some interesting stories about that. So Bruce, if you're on board, good to see you. Welcome aboard, everyone. I'm going to occasionally turn to the screen to see if I can see messages coming in, because I just can't read. Well, now it doesn't look. Let me do a refresh here. There we are live. Okay. And I'm seeing myself with a delay. Doesn't really matter. Is that the Cow Sills? No, Paul. That was The Association from an album called Birthday. It was their, I think their third or fourth. And I'm trying to remember, I think the hit from that, which was nowhere near as big as Windy or Never My Love, but the hit from that was, I think, a song called Everything That Touches You. And of course it's the Wrecking Crew, the greatest studio bass player and drummer and guitar players of all time. And of course back then we all thought it was the band playing the instruments, and it was not. But The Association, fantastic group. So here we are again on another Monday night. What a week. And I guess we'll just leave it at that. I went to the beach today. It was nice. The water was clear. It wasn't crowded. The sign said no sitting, no sunbathing, wear your masks. And of course, everybody was sunbathing, sitting, not wearing masks. I didn't go near anybody, so I didn't feel I had to wear a mask at the beach. But I didn't sunbathe. I threw my towel down, and I had to sit down to put my shoes on after I went in the water. But that's what we do at the beach. So I just released my fourth, and I keep saying it, my final album, because I really don't have much left. This album actually came together pretty quick, sort of not really planned. Like any other songwriter, musician, we all have these things that sometimes we just never get around to finishing, that lay around for years and years and years. I had quite a few music beds that I had done in the last 5-10 years, and trying to write lyrics. Well, as I've explained before, I'm not a pencil and paper guy. I never have been. Every song on this new album, there's no lyric sheet anywhere. I have not written down anything yet. Eventually I will have to, just to have them properly cataloged. But I use the Gonzo method of songwriting. I put the phones on, I turn the track on, open the mic up, and whatever comes out is what you get. And I fine-tune it a little bit, but that's how I write stuff. And that's how I wrote these 10 tunes that are on this latest effort. It's on SoundCloud. I've actually emailed it out to several people using WeTransfer, because the file is large. This album is not sequenced. There is a song order, and we'll talk about the songs in a minute. But I decided to have the songs not really segue, but there's no dead air between songs. They kind of go one into the other. Not that it's any kind of concept album. It's just 10 songs that I've managed to finish, and I sequenced them. I put them in the order I thought was appropriate. And again, it's up on SoundCloud. I also posted it on my Facebook page, I think this morning. So if you go to my page and you see it, there's something that says, listen on SoundCloud. You get a 30-second sampler. Used to be SoundCloud would put the whole length of the thing if you posted it from SoundCloud to Facebook, but they've limited it now to a 30-second teaser. And if you want it, you've got to go to the SoundCloud site and listen to it in its entirety, which I suggest. I think it's kind of a journey. I don't know. All my songs, of course, are personal experience. I have tried to write from another perspective. The songwriters that I envy the most are Don Henley and Sting, and Paul Simon. These guys, well, they're educated men. They have a very literate background. I do not. I've always written just from my own point of view, and as I may have explained before, I'm not really a songwriter per se. I think I've written a couple of good ones, but I consider myself more of a sonic painter. My biggest kick, I don't know if you can hear my daughter yapping her brains out in the background, my little Julie. I'll bring her in later to say hi. I thank God for all this wonderful gear that I have, and it's not really, it's an iMac and a keyboard and my guitars, and for the gift of being able to get what I hear in my head into a listenable format. There's no CDs anymore or cassettes or whatever. There's just downloads, and that's the way you'll get this if you want it. But yes, and by the way, anybody who would really like it in a something they can burn a CD with, private message me your email address and I will retransfer you, because it's a big file. It's not huge. I think it's 50. I don't know what it is, but it's too big to send regular. It's probably too big to attach to a private message as well. Private message me your email address and I will be happy to send you the album in its entirety. So let me look at some questions here. ZB, yeah, you heard Julie. Okay. Hi, Lori. Let's follow the count. Okay, well, I got 3 of you on board so far. D. Olson, you said you were coming over. I hope you're here. Just quick. I mean, I don't look. You do something. You're so proud of it. You want everybody to hear it. It's not my greatest ever, but I'm proud of it. I like what I did, and I enjoy it, and it's wonderful if anybody else does. But anyway, the songs. Les, if you're on board, I hope you are. Maybe you've listened to the album already. The very first song on here is called Town Where I Found You. And it originally was called Town Where I Started. I wrote this song even before I left Miami for Los Angeles in 1970, 71, I think I wrote it. And I've probably recorded it 2 or 3 different ways. The most recent endeavor was, I think I did the track 2-3 months ago. And I did change up the lyrics some. Les will recognize it right away because he played on the original game version that we did at the ranch in Malibu back in 1972, 73. But Town Where I Started, it's basically about a guy who kind of gets fed up with the way things are going where he lives. He's got to go off to, I guess, Hollywood. That was the original idea. California, when I was living in Miami, I thought, well, got to go to California. That's where it's happening. But I'll come back. Someday I'll come back to where I started. And in this latest lyric version, it's coming back to a loved one. Again, it's the first song. Give it a listen. You'll see here. Burnin' Inside is the second song. I've had this song, oh gosh. My brother and I recorded it at Criteria in 1979 when I first moved back from California and went back to work at Criteria. Scott and I were coming in at night and recording anything and everything. He would play drums, I would play rhythm guitar. He would go home at 2, 3 in the morning, and I would stay till sunup overdubbing more stuff. And that's how most of the stuff that I have from the early 80s was done when I did it at Criteria with Scott. Burnin' Inside, it's basically a love song, I guess. The original version had no bridge. I had some kind of a bridge. It was dumb. I didn't like it. And I managed to come up with something I think is a lot better. But it's a semi-rocker, semi-big production, whatever. I tend to get carried away. I've got so many samples and keyboards and guitars and unlimited tracks, so I tend to go crazy. But it's fun. I'm a sonic painter, and I have a large palette and a huge thing with colors to paint with. The third song, and I want to give Dee Olson, my dear friend, Deanne Lance Olson, I want to give my dear friend Dee some credit for this. Dee helped me through a very, very difficult time a year and a half ago. I'm sure the story's been heard by now about my leaving the Long Run Band, which I won't go into detail about the hows and whys. I'm sure everybody knows, but it was a pretty emotional time for me. And Dee invited me over one day, and she said, "Look, you got to sit down and write stuff down and get it out, and try to do some damage control." I had done some damage. And this song was born out of that. And the track I had from 4 or 5 years ago, never knew what to write to it, but sat down one day after I'd had a great visit with Dee and poured it all out on this particular track. It's kind of a rocker. It's got a really cool guitar hook in it. Mark Wise, buddy, I'm sorry I couldn't wait for that Hammond organ part, so I had to do it myself. I hope it doesn't suck too bad, but it's way back in the mix, so I guess it won't matter. Damage Control, that's number 3. Back to Redondo. On my, I think it was, the HHK 3, my last CD. The very last song was an instrumental called Redondo. And I had done this thing, 20, 25 years ago on an old QX5 sequencer. I didn't have Pro Tools then. I didn't have anything. I had this junky little sequencer and a 4-track. And I did an instrumental called Redondo, and it was the last cut on the HHK3 album. And a buddy of mine, Rick Zweig, who, he's a songwriter himself. I played on a couple of his tunes. We had a great get-together at his house the other night, by the way. Thank you, Rick, and Eddie, and Brian, and all the guys that were there. That was so much fun. But Rick heard Redondo, and I don't know, I kind of feel bad about it. Rick said, "Do you mind if I write some lyrics to this? I want to make it a song with lyrics." I said, "Sure, why not? Go, be my guest." I mean, my songs are for anybody that wants them to record and do their own way, whatever. And then I came home and I thought, well, gosh, I'm going to take a shot at it. So, again, I cut a new track because the original track was in a different key that I could never sing in, way too high. So I put it in a different key. It's basically pretty much the same changes, all that. And I wrote some lyrics to it. And it's basically about a young lady who gets her heart broken and decides she's going to leave her hometown of Redondo and just pack everything she has in her car and just get the hell out of town, try to forget this guy that she's still in love with, back in Redondo, and she gets halfway up the coast of California, and just it hits her that, hey, my heart's always going to be there with this guy in that town. I'm going back to Redondo. Next is Bad Deal. Well, this may be the worst song on the record, but it started out like everything else as a track, a really cool track with a kind of a neat groove, some slide guitar, some neat guitar parts. I was thinking of you, Michael Murata, on this thing. I should have had you play a solo on it, but anyway, these things don't always come out as good as you hope they will. Bad Deal. That was the first thing that came to my head. Bad deal. Well, a bad deal could be any one of a million things. Somehow it turned into a guy going to a private card game somewhere with some real dangerous people, and I won't go any further with the song. It's really not worth it. You'll get what you get out of it if you listen to it. Oh, Lovers of a Lifetime. This is a song that I have probably done, oh God, I've probably recut this thing 7 different ways. I actually, when I was in Firefall, I had another completely different version of it that I recorded and presented to the band one year when we were trying to get songs together to do. Lovers of a Lifetime. It's basically, well, the chorus of the song, I don't want to give it away. You got to go listen. But it's, the chorus is the statement. And, well, okay. The lovers of your lifetime will always come and go, but the lovers you remember the most are the ones you never got to know, if that makes any sense. But that's song number 5 or 6. This next song is called Third Song for the Senorita. Now, you Game fans will remember the classic Eddie Keating tune on our Long Hot Summer album called Two Songs for the Senorita. Actually, it was Les and Eddie, I think, that did the musical arranging on it. And I think maybe it started out as one thing and Eddie wrote another thing and they put it all together. It was actually one of Game's most popular tunes. I think it got a bit of airplay. Won't get into the real meaning of it because it's pretty deep, pretty close, pretty personal. But and again, here we go. I had this damn guitar riff. If I can find a pick, I've had this crazy rhythm riff for forever. This. That thing, I had it recorded a year and a half ago, and I just had no idea what to do with it. I think I may have tried one set of lyrics with it, and God knows why I tried to do something with Senorita, but you'll hear it. There's hooks from the original version in there, but basically it's a revisit. The Senorita, of course, is the key, the girl in the film, the song, and this is many, many, many years later. That's as far as I can go with it. You got to listen. If you're a Game fan, you'll completely get it. If not, I hope you'll like it for what it is. Always right there. Again, another crazy track. Starts out real slow, somber. It's kind of pettyish. I think it is anyway. Lyrics off the top of my head. And then the chorus breaks into this huge production, monstrous strings, guitars. I have a ball doing this stuff. I know. Even if nobody listens, I have a ball doing it. Stay Safe Inside. Again, here is a song, of course, about what we're all going through. Didn't I promise no discussion of the virus? But this song, this track, I had this music bed all the way back to a time when I worked at this place in Hollywood called TSI. And it was one of a couple of tracks that I did there just when I was bored in the afternoon and had nothing to do. There's a song on HHK called Prom Queen. Same thing. I cut the track to Prom Queen at TSI back in 1992, 91. Why I named it Prom Queen, I'll never know. But when I dug the track out years and years later, I remembered the title. I thought, why the hell did I call it Prom Queen? And I started making stuff up, and it became a song. It's the second tune on the HHK3 album. So this Stay Safe Inside, it's another track that I had done. I took a shot a couple of years ago with some lyrics. My brother Scott sent me some ideas for it. Just never felt right. And then when this whole COVID thing happened, and this, I stay home, stay inside, be safe, yada yada. So I came up with my own. It's been on my Facebook page. About half of what's on this album has been posted at one time or another. But it's my contribution to songs about COVID, whatever. Where I'll Always Be. The last song, again, a track I had in the can 5, 6, 7 years. And it's basically about a guy who has lived and grown up in a small town and has managed to stay there with a few friends that he has left. A lot of his other friends have gone off to bigger and better things. And it's a guy that basically he meets up with some other guy walking down the street, and they decide to go to a bar and talk about what might have been. And it's Paul Crosta's favorite song on the album. Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you like it too. So let's get to some. Hey, Bruce Dana. All right, man. Can I make John Chetta? Can I make what louder? That my voice, the microphone. I could get closer, I guess. I'm only about 3 feet away from the mic, and I've used this thing before, so all I can tell you is, buddy, turn up your volume. Skit, my configuration. Okay. Oh, the left to right, yeah. Well, every time I do this, I get into a thing where the phone is upright, and if I turn it sideways, the little thing says you got to turn your phone the right way. And I guess I've managed to get it right tonight, so I've got everything spelled properly. When I wave at myself, my hand goes the opposite way, which is kind of freaky, but let's see. Questions. All right. John Chetta, yes. Well, 7 comments so far. Let's see. Paul, you wanted me to talk about. Well, to back up again, most of you know that I was a recording engineer in the late 60s, early 70s. I had a pretty good career. I worked at Criteria Studios from 1960. Actually, I started in 66, got sent up to work for Jeep Harned for a year because there wasn't enough work, went back. I think it was very early 67, and I stayed there until 72. I was there during the Atlantic Records heyday. Atlantic, 3 of main producers decided to move to Miami and live here and do their work at Criteria. So our studio went from maybe 2 sessions a week to 3 or 4 sessions a day. Very, very educational, fun time in my life. A lot of the memories have faded. I went back, when I left California in '79, I went back briefly, almost 3 years, but in 1980 the recording industry took a nosedive financially. Criteria took a pretty big hit, as did a lot of other studios, and I eventually left and then went on the road with Firefall, which is another story that's, I'm sure, been told. But Paul wanted me to relate some of the more unpleasant sessions, and like I told him today, I said, fortunately I've forgotten most of them. There never really were any horror stories. I do remember Wilson Pickett was not a very pleasant guy, and I'm not the first one who would say that he could be difficult. I remember one of the first things he said to me when he walked in was something to the effect that, you better get a good sound or I'll trash this place. Kind of a scary guy. God knows he could sing, but it was a little tense. Got through the session. I remember so little, but I do remember that comment. The other wacky dude was Sam the Sham. And Sam Samudio was his real name. Sam didn't like me because I'm an Aries. Go figure. But, I got through the session okay. Sam, he was a strange dude. I do know that, and I wasn't there, but I heard some story to the effect that one night he brought a gun to the studio and was waving it around, a la Phil Spector, whatever. And Tom Dowd just about took his hat off. Tom was the mellowest guy in the world, but yeah, you could push his buttons. I only saw Tom's buttons get pushed twice, and I wasn't there, and I wasn't there for the Sam the Sham session. But my good friend Johnny Sambatero and I did some background vocals for Meatloaf, the album Midnight at the Lost and Found. And Meat's work ethic was not quite, well, Tom is the most easygoing guy, was the most easygoing guy in the world, but he liked to work and not fiddle around and waste time. And Meat was starting to make a habit of showing up late and being bitchy and moody and yada. And I remember one day Tom took him out to the parking lot, didn't hit him or anything, but he was screaming at him. And I remember when Meat came back into the studio, he was like kind of shrunk a little bit. He'd opened up a serious can of whip-ass from Tom Dowd. There were a lot of sessions that I did with people from the Bahamas before the Atlantic heyday. A good bit of our business was these groups that would come from the Bahamas, and they would come with very little money, equipment that God knows how it worked, held together with gaffer's tape and chewing gum, and they would like do an entire album in an afternoon. And most of those were a lot of fun. They were cool. Now, I remember one session that Mike Lewis, a very, very famous local arranger and producer, it was a session I think Mike was on for whatever reason, arranging, maybe contracting. And it was a guy and his wife and maybe some other people in bed. But the guy and his wife, from the time they walked in the door, they were going at each other verbally, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And Mike, you could see Mike was kind of like losing his patience, like, what do I do? And I remember at one point voices got raised, and I think I was in the control room. Yeah, I looked out the window, and you remember those metal canister ashtrays? They stood about 3 feet off the floor, and they had the chrome insert, I look out the window, and the woman has one of these up in the air and is about to bring it down on this guy sitting in the chair. I think Mike or somebody grabbed it before she could follow through. But, oh my Lord in heaven. Some crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. The sessions that... The difficult ones sometimes, excuse me, the worst case scenario for an engineer is you have a paying client, and studio time was expensive. You have a paying client and you're in the middle of a session and something breaks, something stops working. And way back in the day, we didn't really have, well, we had them, but sometimes they went home at dinner time like everybody else. Maintenance engineers. When I started at Criteria, you had to know how to do it all. I had to set up the mics. I had to align the tape machines, which could sometimes take hours. I even had to cut disc reference acetates for the clients. For those of you, I guess most of you guys are up there and remember that they weren't vinyl records, but they were something you could take home and listen to, even before cassettes. Something that if you had an ongoing session and you wanted to go home at night and listen to what you'd done during the day, the only thing you could take home, unless you had a reel-to-reel recorder at home, we could dub you off a quarter-inch tape, but most people didn't have a quarter-inch machine at home. So you'd have to cut them a reference acetate, and I had to learn how to use a Scully lathe, which is this beast of a machine, and very expensive. You had to be very careful how you used it. And you would cut these, what they call lacquers, or acetates, and you'd take them home and play them. They'd only last about 10 plays before they'd wear out. But I had to learn how to do all that stuff. And when something would break and you got a paying client and you're in there trying to fix it and the clock's run, of course, you couldn't bill them for time that they didn't get to use, so you made adjustments accordingly. But the tension would rise, and musicians out there, they're, come on, let's go, and you're trying to fix something. That was not fun. That was not fun at all. Let's see who else is on board here. Oh gosh. Oh, hi Dee. The Melanie sessions. Oh my God, that's a fun story. Y'all remember Brand New Key Melanie? Sweet gal, wonderful gal, who was married to a Bulgarian man named Peter. And Peter had sort of a reputation. I think Peter probably burned half a dozen studios in Florida alone. He was Melanie's husband and her manager and everything. And he came to Criteria, and I don't remember how long he was there, but I engineered for a week or two. And then Peter decided he was going to go somewhere else. And he called me up from Sarasota and said, I want you to come over here and engineer for me. We're doing a session that I don't even remember the name of the studio now. And my brother was playing drums. I was engineering. And I was going over there, oh gosh, once, twice, even 3 times a week. And fortunately, at the time, I had my pilot's license. So I would rent a Cessna or a Piper, and I would fly over late afternoon, go to the studio, and we'd work from 7 to 11, 12, whenever. And I would get a ride to the airport, and I would fly home. I'd be home by 1:30, 2 o'clock, and in bed. Rather than have to stay there, I didn't want to stay overnight. And, oh gosh, I mean, Scott and I flew over, oh God, we flew over one time on this, it was a company called Florida Air, not Air Florida, Florida Air, and they were flying these old piston Convairs that were, oh my God, I remember one flight over, I'm looking out the window, seeing oil come out of the engine and rivets that are loose dancing up and down on the wing. Yeah, but Peter ran the burn on a lot of studios. This particular, I mean, he left Criteria. I don't think he paid his bill there. He would do these sessions. And of course, the old rule was you didn't give a client his tapes until they were paid for. Well, Peter would do all these recordings and then decide he didn't like them, could do them better, and he'd go to another studio and whatever. I heard from somebody that Peter, while he was renting a house in Sarasota, he had a year rental on a house, and while he was there, he had a swimming pool put in the house without the landlords knowing about it. And they came back and got the $35,000 bill for the swimming pool they didn't even know that was put in. This was Peter. Melanie, dear sweet lady. Peter actually, I think, passed away 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know what Melanie's up to, whether she still tours or does concerts. She's got to be in her late 60s now. But yes, the Melanie sessions, they were a trip. What else we got? Alex Sadkin, Garrett Dave and the Vendors. Fun. Well, Steve Gordon, you've played on everything, man. God. Alex, oh, God bless his heart. Yes, Steve Gordon is on board here. For those of you who don't know, Steve Gordon is a major producer, engineer, and just a ridiculously good guitar player who toured with Betty Wright, has several gold records for production and mixing. We go back, Johnny Samatero and I go back ages with Steve. We sang on one of his records back in the 80s. Steve is a member of a group called Private Stock, who until very recently did a tremendous amount of work for Royal Caribbean. The Private Stock Band is this incredible show band that do a 55-minute set of different artists, whatever, a variety show. I've never actually seen it, but I know that Royal Caribbean has had the band for 15 plus years, so they must be doing something right. Gosh. Okay. Who else we got on board here? 20, I don't know what GPLD is, Steve. Gary Davis and the Vendors. Those people I don't remember. I've still got some stuff playing here. So, again, another album that I've finally finished, and I'm happy with it. I hope everybody else gives it a listen, enjoys it, whatever. Let's see. T-Connection. Yeah, Steve, you've done everything, man. I mean, and you're playing, well, what can I say? Just happen to have my favorite guitar here, my Telly. I'm going to plug it in and just noodle for a second. Most of those most of you who know me recognize this guitar. I don't know if you can see it, the light. Yeah, I don't see it too well. But this baby was given to me by Bobby Richardson, also known as Crow, who unfortunately passed away about 6-7 years ago. He gave this to me for my 60th birthday. I had always had a thing for double bound Telecasters. And he used to come to some gigs with Groovy and I at Bayside, and he would bring in all these. Crow must have had 100 guitars before he died. And he brought this one in, and I bound tellies, and he would put it in the rack with all these, and I picked it up one night and played it. It was so much fun to just grab any guitar off a rack and play it. And he gave this to me, and I've since had it considerably modified. I had a center pickup put in. Originally it was a Bill Lawrence Stratocaster pickup. This is not a stock Telecaster bridge pickup. It's a DiMarzio chopper, and it has a three-way thing that you can split the coils, make it sound like a humbucker, make it sound like a classic Tele. I have had in the neck, and for you non-guitar players, I hope this isn't boring, but whatever. This is the 14th pickup I've had in the neck of this guitar. Oddly enough, I have gone back to the original sort of pickup that are seen in Telecasters. Telecasters normally are stock single coil. The back pickups don't look like this. The neck pickups do, but this is a new Fender noiseless Tele neck pickup, and it's the best sounding one that's been in here. I've had humbuckers, I've had Gretsch Filtertrons, I've had 2 or 3 different types of stock Tele pickups, even a GFS pickup that looks like something off a Rickenbacker. Everything you can think of I've had up here, and I've gone back to this one neck pickup. I just love it because it's so I don't know if throaty is the right word, but it's got that jazzy warmth, but it still has the high-end sparkle. Just love it. Anyway, as long as we're at it, you see it? There's the bridge pickup. This is 2 single coil coils that are wound in. They're wired in series like a Gibson humbucker. So they're noiseless. There's no hum, and it's got a kind of a thicker. A real classic Strat or a Tele is a single coil. I don't know if you can hear the hum, and it's much more. And then there's a position that's sort of in between. It's twangier, but it's still quiet. You probably can't hear with this cheap mic and the amp way over here, but. James Burton. The middle, I just changed this out. It's another DiMarzio, and since I joined the Crystal Visions band, I needed a middle pickup that had a little bit more beef to it. You can split it, make it twangier. And then there's the neck, and you can mix them. You can put the neck in the middle, just the middle, neck bridge or middle bridge. And one thing that I wired in is the ability to have a stock Telecaster with both pickups on, bridge and neck, without the middle. So I pull this knob up and I get this and this. Really can't tell that much of a difference, but this is my my Swiss Army knife baby that I've modded. This was the guitar I used in Long Run for 5 years. When we went on the ships, I would take just this because it would duplicate a Stratocaster. It did a lot of stuff that the other guitars wouldn't do. When I went out domestically with Long Run, I would take 3 or 4 guitars, an acoustic and 3 electrics, all for a little bit different flavor. But this is my number one here. It plays great, stays dead on in tune, and it's cool. I like it. It's one of 4 tellies that I have. I'll show this one here. This was my first custom build, and it's a gorgeous guitar. It's got, you probably can't see with the stupid orange light, but it's got a translucent blue finish, and a neck pickup and a middle pickup that match, and one of those DiMarzio choppers in the back. Plays great, but it's probably the worst sounding telly I own. Just happens that way. You never know when you build them what you're going to get. I think one of the problems is that it's a chambered body, which again won't mean anything to a non-guitar player, but chambered bodies are not really the same as solid bodies. All right, I'm rambling on about nothing here. Tony, hey buddy, we got to do that video, unless I'm too old and ugly to be in it. But yeah, let me pass that on. My friend Tony Colella, very, very talented man. I love his guitar playing, his production. He is a terrific video producer. There is a video right now. It's I don't consider it finished, but it is on YouTube. Tony has a YouTube channel called Hitwave Music that features a lot of really great stuff, videos that he's produced and done. And there's actually a video, again, it's not complete, of a song of mine that Tony really took a liking to called Mean That Much from the HHK3 album. And it's on YouTube now. I think if you put my name in the YouTube window, there's a few panels you'll see. There's one of me in a yellow shirt doing an interview. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, but somehow if you watch that, near the end of it, it goes into this video, and the very first thing I think you see is my brother Scott playing the drum track to it. I'm not even in the video yet. I'm hoping to be soon. But it's one of my favorite songs from the HHK3 album as well. All right, here we come. The song is at 12 minutes and 30 seconds into the video of me. It's me in a yellow shirt in this studio doing an interview that I did about 8-9 years ago. Tony just put a link up on the screen, so if you're watching, you'll see that come by. That's the YouTube link, excuse me, to the video of Mean That Much. A very cute video. And again, I hope to be cut into it soon, actually playing or singing, whatever. Would you guys, you'll be in it when it's done. Okay. You know what? Give me 2 seconds here. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get Julie. Julie wants to say hello to everybody. And while I'm getting Julie, I'm going to put something up that will have to go from these speakers to this microphone, but it's better than dead air. Something from the new record. Let's see here. Let's pull it up, open up with QuickTime Player. Let's see. Yeah. Yep. There we go. Let's. Now the beginning. All right, here we go. No, maybe not. Yeah, here we go. All right. This will be a little of 3 songs for the senorita. I'm going to go get Julie. Hang tight.
Senorita, please take your hat off. I want to see your smiling face. Senorita, do you remember how we danced and sang the time away? Oh, do you remember the chance we took just for love?
Here's my little girl. Oh, Julie. She barks and growls at everything. All right, here she is. My sweet little baby. What are you growling? Oh, you know what she's growling at? She sees her reflection in my bedroom window. You see that doggy? Get that doggy. Get that doggy. Look at the people. Say hi. Say hello. Julie is a miniature schnauzer. Schnauzers don't usually look like this, but Julie has not had her hair cut yet since we got her. It's, not been easy with the COVID thing, but she's going to get sheared sometime next week. I think she looks adorable this way. But, oh, it's my little girl. Love her. You all right, baby? You going to growl some more at yourself? Huh? There she goes. Yep. All right, little puss. That's what I call her because she has feline characteristics with her paws very long and dainty, and she likes to do this kind of stuff. But this is little Julie. Say goodnight, baby. All right. Be right back. Give her back to Mommy.
And all the boys were falling at your feet, but for one magic moment you were mine. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so that's a little bit of a teaser from number 4. Let's see, who else we got on board? Anybody? Tony, yes, she's very cute. She's absolutely precious, has really saved my soul through the last few months. I mean, we lost our dachshund to 13 years, 2 days before Christmas, and I still get very emotional. Anybody who has had a dog knows exactly. Julie was a gift from God. I mean, we didn't plan to get a dog as soon as we did, but things happen the way they're supposed to, and she's something else. I love her. Okay. Guys, we're coming up to well, Steve, I wrote, there's a friend of mine named David Jacobs up in Boca Raton, David had a magazine, an e-magazine or whatever. It was a, God, I can't remember the name of it now. But it was an online thing you'd go to, and and he had me. I was a writer for the magazine for 6, 7, 8 articles. It was called Engineer's Corner, and I related mostly stuff about recording engineering, my experiences, my philosophies, my whatever. I don't know where you would find it now. Actually, I copied and pasted one very extensive article a week and a half ago about the digital analog thing that has been discussed a million different ways from Sunday. Digital audio, analog audio. That was one of 7 or 8 articles that I wrote. There was an article in there about all the different sessions I worked on. If I knew how to direct you, I don't know that it's even there anymore. This was 10 years ago. I wish I could remember the name of the magazine, but the articles may still be there. I don't know. It's Tony. But okay. Hey, Luke, what's up? Let's see. Yeah, Steve, a column for mix. Well, the problem is that my generation of recording engineering nowadays would, the basic tenets still hold. They're, electrons and electricities, electronics will always work the same way, but it's the way things are done now, and case in point, the amount of compression and the amount of auto-tune. There's not a record out of Nashville now that hasn't been auto-tuned. Even on singers that sing perfectly, it's just become the norm. As far as mic technique and all that, I have my own theory and philosophy that has served me okay. I hear records and I see how they were done, and I thought, man, without 18 different mics, I don't know, but it sounds good, I guess. Yeah, I'd love to write. It's a fun thing for me to do, but I don't think I would really have anything to say now to the engineers of today that would be of any value or anything they didn't already know. I came up in an era that it was trial and error. You took a mic you thought might work and you tried it, and it either sounded like crap or it sounded good. For instance, when I went to work at Criteria, Mac Emmerman, he was the boss, and he had these certain mics that he used on everything. There was this particular mic for snare and this particular one for the kick drum, and that's what you were expected to use. But I remember one time I decided, well, I want to try 2 mics over the drums instead of just the one, and I want to put them on a separate channel and pan them out and see what it sounds like. And that was the start of stereo drums, at least at Criteria. I think I may have been the first guy to do it. Ron and Howard, they could have been. I don't remember. But different mics, and you just experiment. And nobody was right, nobody was wrong. It either sounded good or it didn't. But yeah, my engineering days are, in the past. I would love to engineer again, but only if it were a session where there were actual people in a room playing, and no computers, no sequencers, none of that stuff, because that's one of the reasons why I walked away from it in the first place. Aside from, going out on the road with Firefall and whatever, I saw the change, and it didn't look like it was going to be much fun from there on for a recording engineer. Yeah, well, Glenn Johns, yeah, 414s. Well, I'll tell you, the mic, and Steve, you'll remember, and Skit, the mics that we used for Long Hot Summer were Sony 337s. Try and find one of those now. Those things are worth a fortune. Unbelievable mic. Back in their day, they weren't considered to be any big deal, but they were tremendous drum overhead mics. Yeah, the auto-tune thing, and oh my, the compression. And, well, okay. I came across this thing yesterday on my Facebook page. It was mastering. Send us your song and we'll master it for you. Make it. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure everybody that's here, because it looks like it's all tech guys and musicians, mastering is like the final deal that gets done to a record or an album or whatever. It's kind of like a fine tweak after the final mix to bring up the bottom, the top, make everything kind of a little bit bigger. Well, just for laughs, I sent one of my songs yesterday to this instant mastering thing. You drop an MP3 file onto this thing in the window and they say, wait a few minutes. And you watch these things go around, oh, we're processing it, we're doing this, 35%, 60%, 80%. Okay, it's ready to listen to. And you have the before and the after. Well, the only word that comes to mind is caca. I mean, it just sounded like total squash. It didn't sound anything like the song I sent him. And I guess this is what people think mastering should be and what things should sound like now. Yeah, if you listen to FM radio or any radio at all, you're going to hear stuff because of the radio station's limitations. They all have to observe a level, and FCC says you cannot go above that or you get fined. So they make everything up to that level. They push everything that's here to here, and if you look at the meters, they just kind of sit there, and it just sounds like mush. But if that's what music is, well, not for me. Glenn Johns. Well, I heard Glenn Johns. Somebody that I said that Glenn Johns he'd put one mic over the top of the drum kit, and then he'd put a second mic off to the side of the floor tom. Just some weird, crazy, and that's how the Clapton, one of the Clapton albums was done that way. I think the one with Wonderful Tonight. Maybe not. It was the Glenn Johns Clapton record. But every engineer has their own thing. What works for you, works for you. If you get your sound, I mean, at the end of the day, like I've said before, and I read it somewhere, I'm stealing this quote from Lyle Lovett. He said, people don't walk down the street humming the sound of the drums. It's a song, it's a melody, it's lyrics. Everything else is secondary to that. Guitar sounds, drum sounds. Yeah, it helps to have the sonic correctness, but at the end of the day, it's the song. It doesn't really matter how it gets recorded. If it's a good song, it's a good song. Oh my gosh, yeah. The last session, well, I think, Scott, that was 2001. My brother Scott and I got out, invited to play on Coco Montoya's Can't Look Back CD. I think it was his fifth. We recorded that at Captain and Tennille's studio in the San Fernando Valley. It was called Rumbo. And when Rumbo was built, it was the state-of-the-art studio in all of LA. Captain and Tennille built that studio with the money they made from Love Will Keep Us Together. And what a studio it was. It's gone now. It's been torn down. It's gone. But I actually was on Coco's third, fourth, and fifth. The third one we did at Ardent in Memphis, John Fry's studio. A lot of famous stuff has been done there. And then the fourth and fifth were done at Rumbo in the San Fernando Valley. And Scott came down from San Francisco to play on a couple of tracks of that. And I don't know that I have actually played on a real session since that with other people in the studio. I mean, that's when the magic happens, when you have all the bodies in the room playing at the same time and you get this energy going, you feed off each other. I mean, God knows I wish I could make an album that way. The last album I did that way was for Capitol Records, and I used my brother Scott and Eddie Keating on bass. I ended up doing everything else myself, but the basic tracks were cut with real live guys. And I'm sure it still happens that way, but I don't have I don't have the money it would take to go hire a real studio and pay the finest musicians, fly my brother in from California, and do it that way. God knows I would love to, but it's just economically unfeasible. And this is why I have my little studio here that I can do what I do on. And I stay sane that way. Ivan Mitchell, man, oh man, I haven't seen you in ages. Tony, I wonder how Tony is, man. I haven't talked to Tony in ages. Tony Snetro. God. Bob Marley's Tough Gong Studio in Kingston. Wow. Well, I know they're, okay. I was in some studio. That would have been Nassau. I got to do, this was an interesting session. Not a bad one, a good one. In 1979 or 80, I was hired by Ramon Arcusa, who at the time was Julio Iglesias' producer. Julio wanted to do an English album, and he had gotten some songs that had been written specifically for him, and he wanted to, really crack the English market. But he really wasn't sure of how to sing the songs. There's a difference between Latin singers and the way they approach a lyric and the way they phrase it, whatnot. So I got hired to sing 4 of these songs, sing English pilot vocals on 4 songs. So they flew me to Nassau. I forget the name of the state. It might have been Compass Point. It probably was Compass Point. And I remember getting on the plane. I'd picked my ticket up at Ramon's apartment the night before. It was in an envelope under the doormat. I got on the plane. We're sitting on the plane waiting to go. And it's like, oh, well, when are we going to take off? And all of a sudden, Julio comes running up the stairs. He was late. He held up the flight. And he came and sat down next to me, all of the 15-minute flight to Nassau. And I went and, while he stayed in his villa on the lagoon, wherever, I went to Compass Point and sang these 4 tunes. Got paid very well, and I took the evening flight, and I was home having dinner with my wife that night. But that was an interesting session. I don't know. The album probably came out. I don't know if I got credits or not, but I got paid well, and that's all that mattered, I guess. David Jacobs. David Jacobs, what was the name? What was the name of that magazine that you used to do for the internet? I wrote a bunch of articles for that. I still have them in my word processor. Yeah, Tony, you're right. I mean, well, people don't really listen to music all that much now. You see the earbuds in while they're jogging, while they're grocery shopping, while they're doing whatever, mowing the lawn. I remember a time when you went out and you bought an album, and you waited for this album to come out, or you waited till you had the money to buy it, and you got this thing home, and you opened it up, the shrink wrap, you maybe turned the phone off, closed the blinds, you created a time space to do nothing but listen to this record, this album. And I don't think that's been done in a very, very long time. I mean, I do it because I'm a musician. I'll come in here late at night and I'll pull up Pet Sounds and I'll shut everything off and listen to the whole thing in its entirety. But I'm a musician. I'm not the average person who puts in the earbuds and jogs and mows the lawn. I don't know. So, Julio had rules for his band. Don't talk to any girls. Yeah, because that was Julio, one of the girls, right? He was a ladies' man. Yeah. MetroMusicMayhem.com. David Jacobs has put it up here. It should still be there with all the articles I wrote. It was called Engineer's Corner. And it was a really cool paper about the South Florida music scene. Let's see. Allstate TV commercials. I don't get it. What's that about? I don't want to turn my speakers on because he fired Sandy. Sandy Turano? That's the only guitar. Sandy. Oh, keys. I don't remember. I didn't know anybody in Julio's band. Yeah, Skitty. Reading the liner notes on an album. I mean, you would sit there with this thing and you'd hold it while you listened and you'd read the credits and who played on it. And sometimes you had lyrics that were in there. Gosh, it's crazy. We're past the hour. I don't know if you guys are... Sandy Stein. That name sounds familiar, Steve, but Sandy Stein, I don't... It's been too long. Been way too long. Ted Brothers. Okay. So... What the heck? I'm going to do this because let's see. Grab a handful of these things. Yo! Gosh. America, Good Ground, Alliance, Firefall Atlantic. I'm down here in my vinyl pile, and I'm going to show you guys some stuff that I actually played on or sang on. And you might recognize some of it, others you might not. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Just real quick. Oh, I'm not boring anybody, but you can always go when you want to. Engineered, the big single from this, have the gold record on the wall over there, Rainy Night in Georgia. That was a nice session. He was a very nice man to work with. You all know who Michael Bolton is? Well, before Michael Bolton was Michael Bolton, he was Michael Bolotin up there with the long hair. Bolotin. And this album was put together by Atlantic. It's called Blackjack. And it featured Bruce Kulick and Sandy Gennaro on drums. And Tony Battaglia and I did the background singing on this. Michael Bolton, strange dude, weird dude, sang his ass off, but Very strange guy. I'm very, very proud of this. 1980, I played on 3 tunes of this, including the hit Living Eyes. I played the slide guitar. This was the Bee Gees' 1980 Living Eyes album. Everybody remember the Bus Boys? They had a song on this album. Pete Solly was the producer. A song called Soul Surfin'. And Pete wanted Beach Boy vocals on it. And I got the gig. Did it all myself. Had carte blanche, went in the studio, and put a bunch of Beach Boy voices behind that one song. It can be heard on YouTube if you can find it. The Bus Boys, Soul Surfin' in the USA. Jimmy Ruffin. This is David Ruffin's brother. Robert and Robin and Morris Gibb produced this. And George Perry, Chocolate Perry, was supposed to be the bass player the day we cut tracks. I was the assistant engineer. George Perry didn't show up, so I wound up playing bass on 3 or 4 tunes on this. I can't remember which ones, but this was a wonderful album. God rest his soul. Harry Chapin. Sequel. This was the song sequel was the follow-up to Taxi. Ron and Howard Albert produced this. I sang back up and played some guitar on it. Harry was a real special human being. Jesse Ed Davis. Jesse Ed Davis is the guy who played the killer guitar solo on Jackson Browne's Doctor My Eyes. Phenomenal solo. Jesse came to Criteria to do a solo album with Duck Dunn on bass and Roger Hawkins on drums. And I think it was his one and only solo album. And there was a tune on it called Ululu, U-L-L-U-L-U. And Albie Galutin had something, I think he co-produced it, and he had me do background vocals on Ululu, just a whole big stack of the harmony stuff that I do or did back then. This was an album by a group, McGuinn Clark Hillman. My brother actually was in this group and toured with them for 18 months, he and John Sambatero. This album was called City, and it was Roger McGuinn, Gene Clark, and Chris Hillman. It was the McGuinn Clark Hillman band. I got to play guitar, I think, on 1 or 2 tracks. I really wanted to go on the road with them, but wasn't in the budget. Firefall, Break of Dawn. This was the first Firefall album I was on, and it featured the whole new lineup. Guest appearances by Stephen Stills and Rick Roberts. And I really wasn't in the band when this record was started. I had missed the audition and had been counted out. But during the course of the making of this, I ended up playing some guitar and keyboards and doing some background vocals, and eventually was asked to be in the band. John Parr, remember him? Naughty Naughty. That was his big hit single. Johnny Sambatero and I did the background vocals on this album. I think we both sang the highest notes we ever sang on Naughty Naughty. It was, whoa. Rhodes Chalmers Rhodes. These 3 were a big-time backup group. They'd even done some stuff with Elvis, Charlie Chalmers, a very famous sax player with the Memphis Horns, Sandra Rhodes, great rhythm guitar player, played on she's the rhythm guitar player on Mr. Bojangles. Donna Rhodes, the younger sister, she's still a First Call Nashville singer to this day. She and I think her nephew or cousin Perry ran into them years later when we were on Nashville Now. This was their first and only solo album that I did all the lead guitar on. And Mitch Mostell was the bass player. David Robinson was the drummer. We had 1 gig in Montgomery, Alabama. 1 concert. Steve Alaimo played some guitar on this. He did this, I think, mid-'80s. But I'm only going to show this for a second, and I ain't going to make any comment. I think the album cover speaks for itself. I will never forget Trevor Fletcher's face when he saw this album cover. Just one of those things. Gang of Four, Hard. I did some backgrounds on that. Eddie Money, No Control. Me and the keyboard player did the background vocals on this. And I even got to do one guitar line on the hit single, Think I'm in Love. I did an octave low part from the signature guitar line. This was very cool. This was the one that took me to Abbey Road Studio 2 in England in 1982 to work on this record with Russ Ballard. I engineered, I think, 3 or 4 tunes from this. Of course, the big hit single was You Can Do Magic. Engineered the 4 songs and sang backup on You Can Do Magic. You ready, Scott? Oh, God. Oh, my God. You all have heard of Susie Quattro, the singer, bass player? Well, this was her brother, Michael, who was a classically trained pianist. Incredible piano player, but kind of a nut job. I'm not going to show you the back cover because this is a family-rated show. That's his girlfriend with him in the picture. And her name was Bomber. We'll leave it at that. Bomber. Tom Chapin, Harry's brother. Scotty and I both played on this with Paul Harris and Chocolate Perry. Did all the tracks and background vocals on this. Tom's a terrific artist, terrific guy. He had the TV show Make-A-Wish that he hosted for years. This is a group produced by Ron and Howard Albert Alliance. I don't think they ever did anything. They had a tremendous singer, but we did some background vocals for that. This album, John Sambatero and I worked on. This was Peter Frampton's 1985 Premonition album. Cut at New River Studios in Fort Lauderdale, another one that's long gone. But this album didn't do very well commercially. But there was a song on it that I loved so much that I covered it. I re-recorded it, called Hiding from a Heartache. Peter Frampton, 1985. Henry Paul, Johnny and I did some backgrounds on this. I don't think it was a huge success. This one, I mean, it may not have been a huge commercial success, but Johnny and I did very well by this album. We were vocals on, I think, 4 of the tunes. Tom Dowd told me that I almost got to play guitar on this. I don't know how or why. I actually did overdub one little guitar part on a track. This album was actually recorded in the Bahamas. Eric couldn't do anything here in the country for some tax reasons, whatever. But the big hit from this one was Rock and Roll Heart. And when it was used in a television commercial a few years ago, Johnny and I made a real nice taste from the After SAG union because it was a national television commercial, and it ran for about a month. So we did okay by that one. Well, guys, any James Brown sessions? Bruce, who? Oh, gosh. Steve, I'm just getting your thing now. Bruce died a few days ago. Bruce. God, I hope not Hensel. But James Brown, well, I the one session I engineered was Give It Up or Turn It Loose. And that was pretty much the single follow-up to I Got You, I Feel Good. And I can't remember what year it was. I cut that. Oh, Bruce Kulick. Yes. Bruce Kulick from Blackjack. I saw that a couple of days ago. He passed. Yeah. Kulick. Okay. What else we got? So, guys, I think it's about time to wrap it. It's been fun. Again, sorry I didn't have more of an organized thing or that I didn't play, but I'm really not in that great a shape. Again, the songs that I do, the songs that are on this number 4 that I've just released, it's not stuff that I can do with one guitar. I'm not that kind of guy. I've struggled in here before, but it's funny. Now that the rum and coke has taken effect, I will do one thing. I'm going to go out on a limb. Why not? This is a Steely Dan song. The first time I heard it, I think it was just as I was moving back to Florida from California. It was on the Asia album. This is my all-time favorite Steely song. I hope I don't wreck it, but it took me forever to learn the chords to this, and I'm gonna wrap it up and do this. Hope I can get through this all right. No bass, no drums. This is the day of the expanding man. That shape is my shape, there where I used to stand. It seems like only yesterday we gazed through the glass at ramblers, wild gamblers, that's all in the past. You call me a fool, you say it's a crazy scheme. This one's for real, I already bought the dream. So useless to ask me why, throw a kiss and say goodbye. I'll make it this time. I'm ready to cross that fine line. I'll learn to work the saxophone. I play just when I feel, drink scotch whiskey all night long. Die behind the wheel, they got a name for the winners of the world. I want a name when I lose. little sax solo on this.
This is the night of the expanding man. I take one last drag as I approach the stand. I cried when I wrote this song. Sue me if I play too long. This brother is free. I'll be what I want to be now. Learn to work the saxophone. I'll play just when I feel. Drink scotch whiskey all night long. I need more scotch right now to get through this. Got a name for the winners of the world. I want a name when I lose. Call Alabama the Crimson Tide. All me digging Alright, y'all, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for coming. Give a listen to the album. It's on SoundCloud if you want it. Private message me your e-address and I will send you a MP3 of it. And this is Chucky signing off for another maybe week or two. Thanks for coming. Night all.